Everyone, this is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and we are back for another tier list review. Oh, we are looking over the banned red cards on the modern ban list. Some of these cards are hot. I mean, they were just put on this ban list, so do they belong there? Are they broken, or can any of them come unbanned? Let's find out. But before we do, I'm one of those YouTubers that puts the sponsor at the beginning of the video, like FusionGamingOnline.com, my favorite local game store. They sell cardboard and cardboard accessories. And how the business works. You choose what cardboard you want, you deliver them money, and then they will mail the cardboard to you. Legend has it that you can actually play a game with this cardboard. And if you're that special someone who loves buying cardboard, consider purchasing from Fusion Gaming Online with my coupon code Nikachu. It will give you 5% off and support the channel. Now, before we get into the entire tier list, I just want to make a general observation that most of the cards banned here, I mean, this is just a premature ejaculator's starter pack. And what I mean by that is like only one side is going off before the other person even gets started. So if you're ever wondering, why doesn't she phone me again? What's going on here? Well, if you want any of these cards unbanned, maybe that explains it for you. Let's start off with Blazing Shoal. No, not that sort of blazing, not the 420 blazing, but I could totally see Blazing Shoal in fact being a 420 deck. Yeah, let's get on going. Blazing Shoal is on the ban list because it combos with basically any 10 mana spell that's red. We're talking things like Progenitus. I have never thought I would see Progenitus in a modern competitive deck, but once upon a time that was possible, and the idea is you put it on an infect creature. You Blazing Shoal, pitching the Progenitus, target your Glistener Elf, and boom, you can basically turn to kill people. One shot. I mean, if your opponent's tapped out, or if you have Vines of the Vastwood, you can have protection ready. Absolutely. Blazing Shoal with like Vines of the Vastwood protection. How are they going to get around it? Because Blazing Shoal, of course, costs no mana itself. I actually think this combo is a little bit janky because it requires so many moving parts. And let's not forget, like, something like Progenitus, you don't really want that in your infect deck. That doesn't make any damn sense. But fact of the matter is, when we look back on the turn 4 rule for Modern, this card breaks it. So even if it is a little bit of a janky combo, can be disrupted, I think, relatively well with maybe multiple removal spells or Thoughtseize Inquisition of Kozilek. Still is a very dangerous combo that will get underneath a ton of decks. I think this card is just good enough for a ban. I think there's enough disruption in the format to keep this card somewhat balanced, but it's definitely going to have enough turn 2 kills. People are like, oh, this thing is broken. Let's move on to Faithless Looting. Oh my god, the #1 question I get on this channel. Nikachu, can we unban Faithless Looting? What do you think about unbanning Faithless Looting, huh? Do you think it's time? I really want to play my Hollow one again. Oh my god, I want Mardu Pyromancer to be a deck again. So I look at Faithless Looting a lot like the trolley problem, except there's no one in danger, and the only person on the other track is the person pulling the lever to turn the trolley on themselves. You see, like, a lot of people want Faithless Looting unbanned so that they can play their pet deck from the past, but the problem is these people forget that at the height of Faithless Looting, none of those decks saw play. The only decks that saw play were like Dredge, Hogak, Blue-Red Phoenix, Mono-Red Phoenix. And sure, if you want those sort of archetypes, you're still going to dissolve the modern metagame into a pile of shit. You understand that, right? Like, those decks are way too powerful, way too explosive. The only thing that Faithless Looting does in Modern is create turn 2, turn 3 kills incredibly efficiently. We gotta remember that you're not even losing cards. You're supposed to draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, but the 2 cards you discard are always value. I mean, if you discard 2 Arclight Phoenixes, it's like you drew 4 cards. You drew 2 cards, and then you discarded 2 other cards that just enter the battlefield, and you're not going to spend any mana on those things. Same thing with the Dredge decks. They draw 2, discard the Dredgers, and all of a sudden, in very quick time, they have an army on the battlefield. The card basically just got banned. I can remember it like it was yesterday. So, I mean, this card, very easy ban. Not going to be seeing an unban for basically at least a decade. Moving on to Punishing Fire, a card that does see legacy play and the combo with Punishing Fire. If you didn't know, because you'd be like, what the hell is that doing on the ban list? It's like 2 mana, deal 2 damage, who cares? But the thing is, Grove of the Burn Willows is a very unique dual land where you tap to add red or green, but it gives your opponent life. So whenever they gain life, you can pay a red, bring Punishing Fire back from the graveyard to your hand. Shoot your opponent or their creatures for 2 damage. Again, tap the Grove of the Burn Willows. Get it back again over and over again. So you see, it keeps coming back. Just like the mold at the bottom of my shower drain. No matter how many times I clean it, it keeps coming back. So the issue with Punishing Fire is it too oppressive against the creature decks? That is the debate. But the thing is, from my perspective, there's already so much hate against creature-based decks. Like, I'm a merfolk player. I just play with creatures, all right? And as far as I can tell, we're already at max capacity at random crap that can be thrown at a merfolk deck between, like, Lava Darts, Walking Ballista, Plague Engineer, among many others. I really don't know. Like, technically, I guess things get a little bit worse if you add Punishing Fire to the mix, but how many decks can take advantage of this? Just Jund? Maybe red-green Ponza, because you got to be in the red-green colors. So, and not to mention, there's a lot more ways to interact with Punishing Fire than a lot of other cards. I can either interact with the graveyard to get rid of the Punishing Fire, or I can interact with the lands. So, I'm not sure. I think a lot of people will be on the Punishing Fire definitely should stay banned. Some people might be like, definitely should be unbanned. I think that's a weird one. Do you think Punishing Fire can come off the ban list? Like, I can see it just being good enough for a ban, but I don't think it's one of the most overpowered cards on this ban list. Next up, Harambe. Harambe died for our memes, and the spirit of Harambe lived on in Simian Spirit Guide. The monkey that, you know, for the longest time played a very fair role in Modern, both in the mono-red prison deck, but also the Ad Nauseam deck. A key piece that where the Ad Nauseam player would draw their entire deck with Ad Nauseam, then exile 3 Simian Spirit Guides to play a Lightning Storm. But the deal is that deck was very slow. So Simian Spirit Guide players, for the most part, like, were getting away with murder, but up until the point where the card was really getting broken. So Simian Spirit Guide always had the potential to be breaking the spirit of Modern, and eventually it did, creating turn 2, turn 3 kills consistently with Oops All Spells. Also the Goblin Charbelcher deck. It was used to help ramp into rituals to get that Charbelcher out and combo immediately. So if you're wondering why your opponents were getting so upset at you, or why your sex life was getting worse with your significant other, it was because Simian Spirit Guide was the root of the problem. Now, I would say that this card is just good enough for a ban because it was playing pretty fair for a very long time, but I believe that it was just about crossing the line that now it can be banned. And I think over time, when, 10 years down the road into the future, Simian Spirit Guide could even be upgraded because we know it can be part of even more powerful combo decks. So moving on to Rite of Flame. I had to take some time to fully grasp and appreciate the power of the card. And really, all that Rite of Flame is, in some way, is just a diet Simian Spirit Guide. I mean, like, what are you doing? You're investing 1 mana to get the mana back, but you net 1 more mana for free? Like, you didn't do anything. It's just the same as exiling a card from your hand to get the mana, right? So Rite of Flame, under most circumstances, is a Simian Spirit Guide at sorcery speed, but if you have multiple Rite of Flames, then you get extra mana for basically every extra Simian Spirit Guide you have in your hand. So with that in perspective, and Simian Spirit Guide on the ban list, we definitely have to have Rite of Flame on the ban list. Just good enough for a ban. I think it's in a very similar category as Simian Spirit Guide, giving you free mana for absolutely nothing, and maybe you can interact with this thing a little bit better because it's sorcery speed. That's at 1 mana. You could hit it with the Chalice of the Void, but still, I mean, this is a combo player's dream. This is exactly the type of card that's going to facilitate the turn 2, turn 3 kills, and all your opponent has out there is a freaking Leonin Arbiter, and they're like, I came out to play Magic. I came here for the interaction. You're playing Solitaire. You could do that at home against the brick wall. Why are you playing Solitaire with me? So I think Rite of Flame is like just good enough for a ban. Next up, Seething Song. And you know what? 3 mana to add 5 mana? Who could abuse that? Would that really even matter in something like Storm? But then I started thinking, land, Ritual, Seething Song, Ironcrag Feet, Goblin Charbelcher, activate and win. Yeah, get the fuck on the ban list, you Seething Song. And again, I think Seething Song, for the most part, might actually be okay in Modern as just a ritual, but I think there are just enough bad seeds that, you know, no, we're not even going to take a chance with you, Seething Song. You're going to go on the ban list and stay there. And now for Tybalt's Trickery, one of the most dumbest cards designed in an incredibly long time. So this Tybalt's Trickery is a bit of a weird one. You counter spells, and the controller of the countered spells then randomly mills 1 to 3 cards, and then exile spells until they find a non-land card, then casts it. But here's the thing, is this a feature or a bug? You can counter your own spells. And this is the deal, it created the absolute dumbest decks ever designed in Modern. In fact, an absolute brainless combo deck was designed out of this. 4 Violent Outburst, 1 Tybalt's Trickery, and 3 Emrakul, 52 lands. Now the point of this is you mulligan down to your Violent Outburst, Casket, Cascade triggers, and then obviously you're only going to find Tybalt's Trickery. Tybalt's Trickery counters your Violent Outburst because it's still on the stack, and then you just exile cards until you find your Emrakul. Boom! Cast Emrakul, get an extra turn, attack for 15, Annihilator 6, your opponent has no permanents on the battlefield, and the game is over. Lovely. Didn't you enjoy that? Well, I'll tell you, if you hated Tron or Titan decks or basically any deck that dragged its ass for the first 3 turns of the game, this deck wiped it out. Had no chance. It is so brainless. You could teach some sort of chimpanzee to just find the Violent Outburst, teach it to put 3 cards that look like lands on the battlefield, turn them sideways, present the Violent Outburst to the opponent, and the opponent could basically concede from there. And if the chimp could do it, anybody could do it. Now, the deck had its weaknesses, don't get me wrong. I mean, it had trouble against Inquisition of Kozilek, and it had a lot of problems against counterspells. But fact of the matter is, if you let this deck exist, I mean, it will be the premier budget deck in Modern. I mean, you just need 52 fucking lands and some Emrakuls, all right? That's not going to be too expensive, and you'll have a Modern playable deck. You'll go at least like 45% in your local metagame, and that's not too bad, all right, as an entry point into Modern, but it's stupid. It's just stupid. It's overwhelmingly powerful for a turn 3 kill. And sometimes it was turn 2. You play Gemstone Caverns in that deck. Oh, you want to play hate pieces like Thalia, Garden of Thraben, and Draneth Magistrate? Well, the deck played Blast Zone. They could tutor for these things. With Teleria West, it had the tools. It actually was quite resilient. Anyway, we don't want to see apes on the Pro Tour, so we're going to put Tybalt's Trickery as a very easy ban. And not to mention, it clearly breaks the turn 4 rule absolutely in half. And now I've saved the best for last. And let me tell you, ladies, if you find a Splinter Twin player, that's marriage material. Unlike these other jokers, I mean, a Splinter Twin player, they'll be amazing in bed. They love to tap and untap and tap again. They can tap all day. They tap forever. They take things slowly. They like taking it slow. They're patient. They know how to have a good time. So here's Splinter Twin. The combo is simple. You play a card like Deceiver Exarch, which says it can either tap something of your opponent's or untap one of your own. You equip Splinter Twin. You then tap your Deceiver Exarch. Make a new Deceiver Exarch. Untap your other Deceiver Exarch with the Splinter Twin. Tap and repeat this process. Make 1,000,000 creatures and attack with haste. At the time of Splinter Twin's banning, it was definitely just good enough for a ban. But here's the thing. Modern got so hostile. Since then, the power level of the cards and the archetypes have risen significantly since 2016. Could Splinter Twin still compete and be the top dog in this sort of metagame? But on the other hand, they could adopt all the new cards. I mean, there used to be Tarmo Twin, where they play a Tarmogoyf. They start beating you down, force you to tap out, and then all of a sudden, Deceiver Exarch, Splinter Twin, and the game is over. Those decks would now have access to cards like Veil of Summer, further helping them protect their creatures from even the black removal, like Fatal Push, and also counter spells. While Blue has picked up a lot of counter spells to help protect themselves from the Splinter Twin combo, the same can be said for the Splinter Twin player. They will now have access to things like like Force Negation, Mystical Dispute, or even Flusterstorm. Sure, cards like Teferi Time Raveler will make it very difficult for the Splinter Twin player to just easily combo off through Disruption, but here's the thing. What if they add Teferi Time Raveler to their deck? Huh? Did you ever think about that? But then there's the other side of the coin. Okay, they can use all these new interactive spells, but you still, like, need to make a control deck jamming, like, somewhere between 4 to 6 Twiddle creatures and also the 4 Splinter Twins. So, okay, you create all these upgrades. What exactly are you going to remove from the old versions of the deck to squeeze in all these new tools in this toolbox? Is it even possible? Can you add a third color and not be weak to Blood Moon? Let's say the deck was fair. It was the right power level of Modern. Can you accept playing against a deck that you know you cannot tap out when your opponent has 3 mana up? It's, you know, honestly, strategically, it's the correct thing to do. You should be tapping out, because if you're not putting pressure on the Splinter Twin opponent, you're just giving them more land drops, more draws into their combo. You're not putting any pressure on them. So if they don't have the combo, you're giving them the time to get there. It's one of the most feel-bad moments in Magic where you've got the interaction in hand, you could play it patiently, but you decide to tap out, and then all of a sudden they play the Deceiver Exarch. You know what's coming up. They play their 4th land for a turn, they crack the fetch, and the writing's on the wall. Not to mention, technically, it's a turn 4 kill, but not really, because you're so siphoned on mana all the time. If they play Deceiver Exarch or Pestermite at end of turn, they're taking you off your turn 2, your turn 3. I mean, so you're like way behind on turns in the first place. Them comboing off on turn 4 might as well feel like they're comboing off on turn 3 anyway, because they've time walked you. But still, we have more answers to this deck than ever before. Is it possible that we can unban the card, or does it remain banned on the Modern ban list? But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone genuinely knows exactly what's going to happen when Splinter Twin gets unbanned. My personal opinion, I think Modern can suck up this card. It can. But I don't think anyone's going to be happy about the deck existing in the format. It's still a 2-card combo slotted very easily in a blue-red control deck, and both combo pieces have a lot of utility by themselves. After all, you could put Splinter Twin on a Snapcaster Mage for a ton of value. And for that reason, I mean, you could still argue that it should remain on the ban list. But where do you think Splinter Twin belongs on this tier list? Should it remain banned, or is it time to take it off? As usual, if you love these tier lists, don't forget to give the like and subscribe, or your cards will be on the ban list.